Hey there everybody, and welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Boobarama, and in today's video, I'll be breaking into the best supercars for racing in Grand Theft Auto Online. To answer the question of what is the best supercar for races in Grand Theft Auto Online is not as straightforward as one might think, because there are, first of all, a lot of different types of races. You might have street racing, where handling is much more important, or you might have very, very long, stretchy roads, where you need to have that super high top speed vehicles like the Banshee 900R or the Pfister 811 might carry. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the category that kind of meshes between both, where these vehicles have great handling, but they also have very good top speeds and great acceleration. When making videos like this, I try to keep opinions as far away as possible. There's a lot of videos out there that'll, be oriented more towards opinion rather than how good a car actually is on the track. However, today's video, I'm using 2 points of evidence to make sure that the answer I give you is as conclusive as possible. First of all, I downloaded a test track that will give me a very good conclusive idea on what the best lap times I can achieve with the vehicles I'm showing in today's video. But not only that, I'm using the exact same track that another YouTuber called Bruffy1322 uses, who's a very, very skilled driver in Grand Theft Auto Online, and more specifically is the #1 go-to guy when it comes to lap time, handling, and top speed statistics in Grand Theft Auto. With the boring stuff out of the way, let's get into the lap times and see what are the best supercars in Grand Theft Auto Online for racing. In the number 5 slot, we have the Pegassi Zentorno, achieving a lap time of 1 minute .594. Now, this vehicle's lap time is not the best. There are a lot of supercars, not only including the 4 other ones I'm showing in today's video, but I would say the Zentorno is probably about maybe the 15th to 20th best lap time supercar in the game. So why is it in 5th place for my video? Very simple, the price tag. This vehicle comes in at a price tag of like $750-ish thousand, which makes it by far one of the cheapest yet best performing supercars available. And I wanted to put in at least one supercar that a newer player could get their hands on if they watch this video, because when you want to get into racing, it might be really hard to justify spending $2.8 million on some of the supercars that we'll be taking a look in the list later in today's video. But as we can see, this lap here started off really well. I'm full powering through these corners, a little bit of a drift where I know that when you drift, you lose a bit of speed because you're not really getting grip, but with the Zentorno, it's hard to not drift, to be completely honest. It's a lot easier to just kind of drift a little bit and control that momentum through the corner rather than slowing down and braking through the corner. So that's what I was able to do through this cornering. But you'll notice overall, the Zentorno had no problems with this course. Now, this vehicle was the trickiest for me to actually get a good lap time in. It took me 15 laps in total to get my best lap, which was 1 minute .594, as I said. So because of that, it was a bit tricky in the Zentorno. It just doesn't turn as well as a lot of the newer supercars, but overall, it did completely fine, as you can see, and didn't really struggle all too much. You just have to get used to the vehicle's handling. But once again, for the price tag that the vehicle carries, it is an extremely solid contender, and that is why it's in the number 5 slot. In the number 4 slot, we have the Dubachi Wagner, which was able to finish with a lap time of 59.896 seconds. That is overall a really, really solid lap time, especially when you add into the fact that this vehicle is only $1.4 million. Price tag to performance, this is by far one of the best in the Supers class. It's, I would say, about the 5th best lap time in the game, which is really, really solid for the Supers vehicles, and it just handles really dang well. Out of all the cars I drove in today's video, even though some of the other supercars you're going to see in a moment have better lap times, I had an easier and more enjoyable time driving the Wagner, just because of the fact this vehicle's handling is so much better. It grips the ground. I didn't ever have to worry about it spinning out. I had the least crashes, the least amount of redos in the Wagner when it came to lap times compared to all the other vehicles, which actually makes me really rate this car super high. So I I would suggest to pick up the Wagner. Even though some of the other vehicles are a lot higher up on the list when it comes to lap time, the Wagner was so much easier to drive, and when you're in a racing situation, you don't get redos. So if you make a mistake, guess what? You gotta go all the way back to the beginning. The Wagner had almost no problems whatsoever, and because of that, absolutely fantastic car. And you can see that in this lap here, even though I probably could have done this lap a little bit better in some areas, a little bit less tire spin, a little bit less drifting here and there. Overall, very easy lap, super easy to finish, and I really had no problems whatsoever when using this car. As I said, I got an overall lap time of 59 seconds, .896, which is right on time with all the other supers. In the number 3 slot, we have the Ocelot Virtue, the brand new electric car in Grand Theft Auto Online. Now, I'm always surprised to see an electric vehicle doing very well when it comes to lap time, because normally to me, electric cars struggle with what they've always struggled with, and that is top speed. The Tesseract, the Coil, Cyclone, they always struggle with their top speed. However, the Virtue, while it only goes at a top speed of 120 miles per hour, has some of the most insane acceleration I've ever seen when it comes to a supercar in the game. It is ridiculously fast. In about 4 seconds, you're usually up to your top speed, and I should also point out this vehicle has pretty solid handling. As you can see me driving it here, I had no problems with the handling. It's a bit heavy. You gotta be careful. It likes to drift. If you're going too fast and you try to turn a corner a little too heavy-fisted, what's gonna end up happening is your car's wheels are just gonna spin and you're gonna lose all your grip and die. That's something that I had happen a lot. But if you control it right and you get the hang of this vehicle, it is really, really fast. And the better part about that is when you're racing people on small streets like this, when other cars are a lot slower on acceleration, when you're getting around a corner and you step on that gas, this car's acceleration is going to allow you to pass and overtake a lot of people in super tight and narrow corners. So overall, I think the Virtue is great. Not to mention, right now, you can get the vehicle for absolutely free if you complete the last dose missions. You get it as a gift. The Virtue was able to achieve a lap time of 59 seconds, .125. However, I do want to put as a disclaimer, this vehicle is only going to be really good when it comes to straight line acceleration. Once you're on a big straightaway, you know, let's say you're on a race where it's got a highway or it's a stunt race and you got these big open areas, this car is going to struggle a lot just due to the fact that it is not nearly as fast as some of the other supercars in top speed. So I would only suggest use the Virtue if you're using close cornering and a lot of city street racing. In the number 2 slot, we have a vehicle which I knew was going to make this list before I even started making today's video, the LM87. This vehicle is not cheap. It is $2.9 million, and that's without adding in the fact that you also need to upgrade this vehicle, so probably close to about $3.2 to $3.3 million to fully get the LM87 equipped. Is it worth that price tag? Well, that one's up to the eye of the beholder, because this vehicle's lap time was very impressive at 57 seconds, .615. That is a heck of a lot faster than the other vehicles I showcased so far. The reason this vehicle gets such a staggering lap time is the fact that A, it has absolutely insane handling. Out of all the vehicles I tried today, this is by far the best handling. It's not the easiest to drive because it does like to spin out if you give it too much power, but as long as you keep the wheels on the ground and you don't hit any bumps or anything like that, this vehicle is incredibly easy to drive and maneuver with. Not only does this vehicle have great handling, but it also features one of the higher top speeds for the superclass. I think it's upwards of like 127 miles per hour. So it's fast and it's got really good handling. As I said, the only downside is the price tag. If you don't mind dropping $2.9 million on this vehicle and upgrading it, this is by far one of the best supercars in the game, and I would highly suggest to pick it up. As I said, a lap time of 57.615. The final vehicle is the Emirates, a vehicle that slightly beats the LM87. Instead of getting a 57.6, it got a 57.552. which is honestly really impressive because I didn't think any vehicle was going to beat the LM87 just on how dang impressive that vehicle was. But the Emirates, it was able to come through, and whoa boy is this thing fast. Now the Emirates is not the easiest vehicle to drive. It's definitely a tricky one because it's rear wheel drive. If you give it too much power, especially because it's got those tiny wheels, this thing definitely likes to spin out. And it was one of the trickier vehicles I had to set a lap time in because I know how fast the Emirates is, I know the power it has, but the problem is to use that power you have to play really, really aggressive. And sometimes playing aggressive, as you can see right there, almost can spin you out. So I definitely could have gotten a slightly better lap time, I think, in this vehicle, but a 57.552 was pretty dang solid, and I cannot complain. The fact that the Emirates is still the best supercar is honestly pretty impressive to me. Comes in at a price tag of $2.75 million, which is absolutely ridiculous when you think about price tags, but I guess it's not as bad as the LM87, so if you have a choice and you want my opinion, I'd still suggest to pick up the Emirates rather than the LM87, just because the vehicle's a heck of a lot cheaper, and I actually like the look of the Emirates a bit more. Overall, the lap times Bruffy and I were able to achieve on the same course were very, very similar across the board. For example, his Emirates lap time was 58 seconds .291, and mine was sitting at 57.55, so very, very close there. The LM87, he got a 58.658, and I got a 57.6 something. So all of our vehicles are very, very similar on lap time, within 1 second apart from each other. So I would say that overall, as I said, the best supercars in the game when it comes to lap time, if you're just going for pure performance, first of all, in first place is, as I said, the Emirates. Just an absolutely amazing vehicle. After the Emirates is going to come the LM87. Both of these vehicles are very, very similar, and it really depends on your personal driving style. After that, I'm going to have to give it to the Wagner. I do like the Virtue. I think it looks absolutely sick, and there are definitely races where having that insane amount of speed and cornering capability is going to allow you to out-accelerate almost anybody else on the track, but it's just so much more expensive at $2.9 million when it is going to be fully released that I think the Wagner is just a better vehicle overall. Plus, the Virtue is very tricky to drive. And then we're going to put the Virtue next because the Virtue is a really solid contender still. And finally, we have the Zentorno, just kind of the car that's hanging on. It's still a good vehicle. It's still got a pretty solid lap time, as I said, about 1 minute. That's very competitive, even compared to the other vehicles we used in this list today, so not a bad vehicle at all. I actually like the Zentorno a lot. It looks amazing, and for the price tag, it is a really, really solid deal. At the end of the day, these vehicles are only as good as you are at driving them, so make sure you practice at driving, and let me know how you do in the comments down below. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.